River? Cloud whispered. Tears were building on the corners of Riverpaw's eyes. It's really him. Cloud. Riverpaw choked. All doubts faded away for a moment. The last living member of her family was standing in front of her. She rushed toward him. I'm so glad you're safe. His eyes widened as she leapt on him, rubbing her head into his chest. His soft white fur tickled her nose, but the she-cat barely noticed, too overcome with joy and relief. He's okay. He's safe. After a few moments, however, she finally realized how remarkably still he was. Riverpaw withdrew slowly, raising her eyes to his face. He was taller than her now, and, staring at her, a strange look in his eyes. River, I didn't think I'd see you again, he mewed. His voice was flat, only numb shock in his tone. Her brother had grown into a large, muscled Tom. His white fur was thick. The orange mark just beneath his right eye had darkened in color, yet he looked so similar. He's not, though. I didn't think so either, she whispered. Confusion and fear were mixing together in her stomach. He didn't seem happy to see her. Are you okay? Cloud blinked a few times. To Riverpaw's vast relief, a smile finally bloomed on his face. By the stars, River, I'm fantastic. He placed upon her head playfully and looked at Tiger. My little sister's come back to me. We're the same age, Riverpaw laughed, shaking him off. He cocked his head. But I'm bigger than you now, Pigeon Brain. I always told you one day I'd tower over you. He flicked his tail playfully. Where have you been all this time? How did you get here? Tell me everything. Riverpaw suddenly felt overwhelmed again, but this time with excitement. All that had happened since she last saw him. There was too much to say. Before she had a chance to speak, however, Ashheart cleared his throat. It was then Riverpaw remembered. The other clan cats were watching her, along with Stonepaw and Echopaw, and the healer. The ThunderClan apprentice looked at her mentor and her friends. We have much to discuss, Stoneteller, Rowan Shadow meowed, turning back to the tribe leader. Perhaps you have some place we could talk more seriously. Yes, very well, Stoneteller responded, casting an amused glance at Riverpaw and Cloud. However, I feel it best to address that in the morning. For now, we must all get our rest. Tiger, please escort the clan cats to a comfortable place in the cave. They are honored guests. Cloud? Cloud pricked his ears, and Stoneteller smiled slightly. I believe you and this clan cat would be best to find a quiet place to talk. Keep in mind, however, you still have duties tomorrow. Cloud dipped his head to the leader, and Stoneteller padded away. As the clan cats followed Tiger, Riverpaw cast a glance at Echopaw and Stonepaw. The two nodded their heads towards her brother, smiling. Riverpaw immediately knew they understood. Come on, I have the perfect spot, Cloud meowed. The siblings crouched in a small alcove beside the pool. Here, the roaring of the waterfall was low, and the two were free to talk. And talk they did. Cloud listened as Riverpaw enthusiastically explained what the clans were, how they fought and cared for each other, and how Echopaw and Stonepaw had become like a new family to her. During this time, she was simply overjoyed to be sharing this with him, and feeling like they were 2 moons old again. At first, she did not mention how it was she came to join the clans, but soon she found she had to say it. He deserves to know, the she-cat thought. Still, she hesitated, and now it was Cloud's turn to launch into his story. Once I realized we had been separated, I tried to look for you. I searched the forest around the city, but only found a whiff of your scent. Since I couldn't backtrack, I decided to head toward the most noticeable landmark I could see, thinking maybe you would do the same. The mountains were tall and huge, so I started toward them. It was hard. There were a lot of dangers I hadn't even considered before, but I managed to make it pretty far before I grew too tired to continue. I collapsed outside a small city, thinking I might just die there. Luckily, a pet found me and decided to help me. She gave me a mouse and allowed me to eat some food from her man's house. After I had regained strength, I told her I was heading toward the mountains, and she said she'd come with me. We traveled together for many more days before finally making it to the mountains. By that time, we were really good friends. We decided to search around the base of the mountain for your scent, but a few days searching revealed nothing, so we decided to go up. It was a difficult climb, but we made it to the top. I looked everywhere for your scent there too, but found nothing. That night, a heavy blizzard pinned us in a small cave. It went on for at least a day or two before relenting a bit. When it did, we tried to go out and head back down the mountain, but the snow was too high. We only managed to make it a little ways before giving up. When we got back to the cave, we met some tribe cats who took us to Stone Teller. They gave us food and shelter, and from then on, we've been living with them here. As her brother finished, Riverpaw found she couldn't look at him anymore. There was silence for a moment, and Riverpaw forced herself to speak. So, the cat you traveled with is still here? Yeah, she's probably asleep in the den with the other prey hunters. She's great. I'll introduce you. Silence again, and Riverpaw could feel a strange distance growing between them, like his story had pulled them through time to a present day, where she was reminded it had been over 9 moons since they'd seen each other last. They were crouched together, almost touching, and yet... She shook her head. I'd like that. I'll make sure to introduce you to Stonepaw and Echopaw, too. They're great. Cloud nodded, and after another eternity of silence, Riverpaw knew she couldn't hold it back anymore. Cloud, I have something else to tell you. Okay. His voice changed, as if he knew it was coming. Riverpaw swallowed. When I first found the clans, I stayed with them for a bit, gathering my strength. Then I went back to the city. Cloud was strangely silent, but she felt him tense slightly. Riverpaw continued in a low voice. That night we snuck out. Seeing Mom fight so hard, I couldn't just keep walking away. I asked everyone I could find for help, but since no one would, I went back alone. Well, not really alone. Stonepaw and Echopaw were there beside me. They did all they could, and they're the reason we managed to make it past the Legion cats and search the prisons. A weight Riverpaw had felt for moons was growing heavier on her shoulders, and she didn't know why. I found her, Cloud, but someone got to her first. Glare, probably. She couldn't look at her brother. I don't know what they did, but we tried to get her out. We almost made it, but we got trapped in a dead end, and it all fell apart. Riverpaw closed her eyes. She's gone, Cloud. Cloud was silent, his eyes unfocused. Riverpaw could almost see memories of Shard flashing in his eyes. She waited, her fur bristling in anxious tension. Finally, her brother spoke. Thank you for telling me, River. Honestly, I already knew. He looked at her and smiled weakly. I wanted to believe she got out of there, that she was right behind us. But when I was traveling, I had this feeling that she died that night we ran. I came to terms with it and found a new family here. He looked up at the waterfall, roaring over the ledge and shielding the tribe's cave from sight. The important thing is that we're safe. We survived. And I know Mom would be happy that we're both doing all right. Riverpaw felt her fur lay flat again, but the weight did not leave her. She gazed out across the pool, at the white lines the moon painted on its surface. She felt her brother's hesitant tail rest on her shoulders for a moment. As much as the she-cat wished she could appreciate the gesture, only one thought seemed to run through her mind as Cloud stood and gestured for her to follow him back inside. Do you blame me? She knew she could never turn the thought into words.